Welcome everybody on today's sit down. Now I've done many of these and for the first time I am so nervous to introduce our next guest. I am such a huge fan, and before we introduce her formally, I just want to give you a little bit of her background. She's got a CV that is, I've never ever seen an impressive CV like that. But before we get to that, in life, not everybody has the same start, but having a difficult childhood and having a difficult start is not a sentence that you don't need to finish or run your race well. The young woman next to me has run it very well. She has been the non-executive director at SARB, South African Reserve Bank, chief executive at Klein Management Consultants. She's worked at Barclays in the UK, worked at ABSA, led multiple divisions at ABSA, the very first woman president at Afrikaanse Handels Instituut. She has won Businesswoman of the Year, the very, very special and very dynamic Venete Klein. Welcome to our show, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here, and also what an introduction. I always feel honored or flattered rather when I hear my own CV. But you've done so well. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you very much for honoring us with your time. We're very excited and I can't wait to get into this.
Likewise.
So, ma'am, my favorite question, if we could wind back time about 5 to 6 years, you're 17 years old and the 17-year-old version walks in, sits on the couch. You've had such an incredible journey, but I'd love to pick your brain. You grew up in a very tough time in our country. It wasn't as peaceful and as orderly as it is today. It was difficult. What's going on in your mind? You're living in the Cape Flats. You've navigated. You've been to Harvard University. You've done incredible things. But at 17, what's important to you? Is education important to you? Is sport important to you? What are your priorities at that tender age?
Well, at 17, I was living in a place called Mitchell's Plain. In fact, Mitchell's Plain had just been established way back in about when I was 17. We moved into Mitchell's Plain that year. And at that time, my priority was finishing my matric, which was a big thing. I was the first person to finish matric in my family. So it was a really big thing for me. Basically studying in candlelight. There wasn't always electricity because not the entire Mitchell's Plain had been electrified. So it was hard. And also, we'd moved to Mitchell's Plain, which was rather far from where the school was. And I couldn't really change schools at that stage. There was no closer school than the one I was attending, which was in Lansdowne. So I used to have to travel from Mitchell's Plain through a place called Mannenberg, which today is probably the most dangerous place on the entire Cape Flats.
Wow.
So my priority was staying safe and getting through matric. And all in order to give my family, my parents and my siblings a better life. That was my priority.
Wow. So, having spoken to a lot of people, they're either interested in sport or they're interested in boys or girls. You're interested in, number one, being safe because the environment is very volatile. You don't even have electricity. And going back to your CV a couple of minutes ago, the amazing accomplishments that you've green ticked next to your name. How do you navigate from, studying in candlelight just to pass matric to give your family a better life to, going into a career of banking, all the incredible things that you've done? How does that journey take place? What happens once you finish matric? And, what are your next 3 to 5 moves going into, leading a life that you have and into the incredible woman that you are?
Thanks for that, Bobby. Look, I was always there was always a bigger plan for my life, and I think it was God's hand on my life. Because I cannot tell you that I had made a decision on the next steps after matric. In fact, let me take you back to my matric year.
Yes, please.
That was 1976. And in 1976, you probably don't know, because this is way before your time, I would imagine.
Yeah, a little bit before my time.
A little bit before your time. But we were class of 1976, and that was the year of the biggest riots in South Africa, where school kids took to the streets and burnt tires and got whipped because we wanted Madiba released. That was the storyline. We wanted democracy. We were tired of the old system. And I was class of 76. The irony of where I find myself today and taking me back to that year, 1976, when I was 18 years old then, is that I was a prefect at my school, and we were part of arranging student marches and part of getting students mobilized for the cause. And I think it was the September of that year, 1st of September, we marched from our school to another school in the Athlone area. And I remember being whipped so badly that I went back home with marks, dark black marks on my back. Fortunately, they were not open, but dark black marks. And my dad took one look at me and he said to me, "I'm not sending you to school to go get killed. So you are not going to finish matric." And I think that for me was probably it felt like the most pivotal point of my life. The one thing at that stage, which I was still so young, but I remember working so hard to get through matric, working so hard that I wasn't really that focused on sports. I was never really an athlete. I had lots of friends, but I was focused on getting my matric for a better life for my family. And here my dad was saying to me, "No more." And in those days, what your father said was the law. So here I was on the 1st of September and not able to go back to go and write my matric exam. And I think we were like about halfway into October month. In those days, they used to give you numbers, your number to write your matric exam.
Yes.
I'd now missed out about 6 weeks of matric preparation for your finals. And I got this knock on the door in Mitchell's Plain, and there were two of my friends, male friends from school. And they said to me, "Please, can't we talk to your dad? You've got to come and write. You're always one of the best performers." That's what they were referring to. And they said, "There's no better gift than to see your name in the paper." It's still, in those days, also your name was in the paper if you had passed. There's no better New Year present than seeing your name in the paper. And I begged my dad that night, and he allowed me to go back. That was mid-October. And I think the irony of that story was that I went back mid-October, and I passed with what was called a university exemption, and both those young men did not make it.
Wow.
So I thank God for them every day, because without them having taken that bold step of encouraging me to step out and ask my dad what I didn't think he was going to, approve, I managed to get through matric.
Wow.
And from there, I went on to university because I had a university exemption. And then history repeated itself, because then 77, 78, everything went pear-shaped again, and I left university without one credit to my name.
Wow.
And I ended in the world of high finance, which included working on Wall Street in New York. I ended, a career in high finance almost by default, Bobby, almost by default. When I was literally put out of university because of being very active in the struggle at the time, my dad then said to me, "Look, you now have 1.5 years of bursary to repay. I cannot afford this. You decided you wanted to do this, participate in the struggle, so you're going to need to go work to pay this." Because, my dad was the only person working in the home. And I, of course, sent out 50 CVs. And in those days, just having a matric was something.
Yes.
But you had people coming from other walks of life, or certainly other races, who were better qualified than just having a matric certificate. And then also to see that you'd spend time at university with no credit, people thought that you were super stupid. Because, who goes to university and doesn't have one credit? Well, that was me, because of my participation in the struggle. Any case, I sent 50 CVs to just everywhere. I sent it to the police force. I sent it to, I was going to do any job, man. But I sent CVs. I sent my matric certificate to every address I could find. And I got one response. And you would say, hey, this is great. Well, actually, the response read, we acknowledge receipt of your.
No. After sending 50 CVs.
After sending 50. And you must remember, I had to go borrow money. There were stamps to be licked and put onto envelopes in those days.
No emails.
No emails, physical sending. So, of course, I get one response. This was probably after about a month and a half. And I was so super excited when I saw a Barclays stamp on the outside, across the stamp itself. And I thought, this is it. I've got a chance. And it was just acknowledging receipt. So it was the build-up of the excitement. And then what do I do with, once again, being kicked to the curb, if you will, because there was nothing really in it other than the acknowledgement of receipt of my paperwork. So for me, there's a few lessons that I've now learned. How to fail, pick yourself up and keep going. Fail again, pick yourself up and keep going. So I've learned a few strategies and tactics which I've used all the way to the top job I've ever held through those early struggles or failures, may I say. So failure is not a point that you stop. Failure is actually a time when you learn, reassess, and move forward. So what did I do with that one? And hopefully I'm not talking too much here. We okay?
I love it. I love it. I'm mesmerized.
So you're thinking, so how did I get out of that, right?
Yes.
One, acknowledgement of a receipt. I then went and I studied the landscape and I saw, this was from Barclays Bank. Banks in those days used to close on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
Wow.
Because they were managed mainly by men. And the men had to take off to go and play golf.
At 1 o'clock on a Wednesday.
At 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So then I at a very early age, worked out what is the road of least resistance to use this opportunity to still get to where I want to go.
Love it. The strategy.
The strategy. So this was just a couple of subjects in at university and a matric certificate. Every Wednesday at 5 to 1, I would go to a phone booth. We had no phone in our home. There were no cell phones. And I would dial the lady who had signed the letter, a Miss Slubbert. I became Miss Slubbert's best friend every Wednesday at 5 to 1. Well, I think she felt that I was a bit of an irritant sometimes. I could hear it in her voice. Because, she wanted to leave. The bank was now closed.
Yeah.
But that call would come through like clockwork every Wednesday at 5 to 1. And one day, I think she was so pressed for time, she just said to me, you know what? You know what, Venete? Yes, no, I know. You've been phoning me for 3 months now. Just come in. Come in on Monday.
Beautiful. Resiliency.
Paid off. I had my foot in the door by never giving up. And every time in those 3 months, when I hung up the phone, I felt it in my gut, the disappointment. Not finishing university. Here I am again. Not being kicked to the curb effectively. Being told every time, no, nothing yet. No words were. Now I'm looking out for you. There's nothing yet. Until one day, she was probably at her weak point and busy, and she said, just come in.
Beautiful.
And that's how I ended up at Barclays Bank in Adley Street.
So I want to take you back to that interview process a couple of years ago. You walk in and I'm here. How does that conversation take place?
Lots of nerves. lots and lots of nerves. Never been exposed to anything at that level. Walking into this big bank.
Because this is proper, it's corporate, it's
Proper.
structured, it is world standard.
Absolutely. These things you only saw in movies. And
Yes.
that particular branch of Barclays Bank was on the corner of Adley Street and I think it was Long Street. And it was marble floors.
Wow.
Marble pillars. Just the building was intimidating.
And we grew up in a household that sometimes didn't have electricity and didn't have a telephone, into a marble floor. That is intimidating on a new level.
Absolutely.
You walk in and what happens?
I walk in, I ask for Miss Slubbert, I ask the doorman, because they're doorman at that stage.
Wow.
And there's this huge building. He directs me to a lift. I go up to, I think it was the 2nd floor. And out comes this beautiful, tall woman with a hairstyle that was only for banks in those days. It looked like a beehive. It was like,
So only for banks.
only for banks. I thought that, I'm not sure, do they put their money in there? But it was huge. I didn't have hair that could do that, but I had long hair, but I was thinking, I wonder if this is part of the corporate garb, because you walk into a bank then, everybody was dressed the same.
Okay.
The same uniform, you could pull everyone through a needle, they were neat, the
Proud.
floors are marble. It just exuded power. So I had butterflies, I was nervous,
You were in love.
and I said, yes, Lord, I've arrived.
You were in love, man.
I was in love. This is high finance. This girl from Mitchell's Plain in Barclays Bank. Now remember, I've just been invited. I don't even know if there's a job here. She just got tired of saying to me that she's still looking. And here I am. I mean, it was an amazing feeling. It's all I can say.
Awesome. You know, you've led multiple teams. If you know, I'm starting my career as a leader. Our company is growing, and I'm actively making mistakes. I'm failing forward. So, whenever I lose, I try not to lose the lesson. As painful as it is, I grip the lesson and I take it with me and go forward. A very simple thing. I think, for those of you watching, it's highly important that you get this. If you were in the lady's shoes that got the phone call every Wednesday, and I'm going to ask you the question, I'm going to answer it for you as well, you would also give that young woman an opportunity, because she displayed absolute resiliency. You were on point on a Wednesday at 5 to 1 for 3 months in a row. So I bet you now that she was looking forward to those calls. And every time, if she phones one more time, boom, that one more time happened and you got the opportunity. Had you not been resilient and not taken no for an answer, who knows? And F&B wasn't around back then.
No, it was
so the competitor couldn't catch you. So,
Yes.
so it was Barclays. So
Absolutely.
you walk in, get the job, you have an incredible journey that took you to the New York Stock Exchange. You went to Harvard University. You've done a lot in your life. If you could perhaps share, so our audience is anything from about 12 to 13-year-old kids, and our oldest fan is 92, Uncle Saki. Always writes me text messages like, love the guest on every episode. But if you could share a mindset that you wish, the young, energized girl could take with her into that first day, into the interview, that will serve the people watching this well, what would that mindset be? And I wish you guys can take this out of this video and just let this go into your lives and serve you as well as it has served me, but later on in your career. Something that you didn't have that you wish you had.
Wow, that's loaded. Let me try and answer it for you this way, and if I don't, then just bring me back. There's something that I always say to people when I speak today, and that is, we get up, we dress up, and then we show up.
Okay, love it.
Now, back then, I did not realize that is what I was doing. But
Yes.
actually, it was.
Yes.
If I can, the one word that I would want to just say to particularly the young people, and I think is what opened the door for me with Miss Slubbert, was my tenacity. You have to be tenacious. Do not get slapped down and stay down, because there are too many people. The best opportunities, or the people that have had the best opportunities but never maximized them, is because they got shut down and stay down. So if I can say to anybody out there, and I want to talk specifically to Umsaki, he watches the program at 90,
92.
because it sounds to me like Umsaki is a lifetime learner.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And if we can become lifetime learners from the age of 10 to 92, the world will never be a place where we need to fear. We will grow with change in the world. And it sounds to me like Umsaki, and I know nothing about him, watching the program and taking in from different guests tells me that this is a lifetime learner.
Absolutely right.
And the one thing I want to encourage the young people with is be tenacious. Do not let any situation or circumstance shut you down, and become that lifetime learner like Wamsaki. Because in this world will always be our oyster.
Beautiful. Get up, dress up, show up.
Absolutely.
And show up to learn.
Absolutely.
And failure is a part of the process.
Correct.
Learn from the failure and move forward. I love it. I absolutely love your answer. The best answer I've ever had.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Bobby.
much, man.
Thank you.
An incredibly successful woman like you becomes that way because you fail and you fail forward. You learn from your mistakes and you continue learning from the mistakes and you grow. If you were to say, because I want to keep this question to your career. So for all the young entrepreneurs that watch the show, all the people that are coming up, they're getting a bit of momentum. What would you say is your biggest failure that taught you the biggest lesson that perhaps we can avoid?
I would say it's taking somebody else's narrative of you and believing it unchallenged.
Oh.
And I'm going to give you a real example of this. It was, I think I'd been in banking for a number of years when I was given the opportunity to go onto the Nelson Mandela Professional Development Program. Madiba was then the president, and he met with Mayor Dinkins, who was the first black mayor of New York. And he said, how can you help me, or will you help me train up 100 aspirant black leaders for my country?
Wow.
And I was blessed enough to be one of those. It was such a rich learning. I mean, I got to study at Columbia University.
Wow.
Got to work on Wall Street. Got to sit with presidents of different banks
Wow.
on Wall Street. Spend time in the Federal Reserve.
Unbelievable.
So it was an amazing opportunity. But to come back to what was my biggest failure, in the introduction to this program, my then superior or boss at the time, Richard Dingle, I don't know if he's still alive, he had to say, what are my weaknesses? And he said that I didn't have, these were the words, she doesn't have a creative bone in her body. Do you know, Bobby, I believed that for probably 30 years. No, maybe 25 years. Until one day, I mean, people would ask me, so what is your biggest failure? Or what's your biggest shortcoming? And I'd say, no, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I actually believed it. Until one day somebody said to me, but how is it even possible that you're not creative? Just look at, when you do the decor in your home, it's world class. When you do I started crocheting when my daughter-in-law was pregnant with my first granddaughter. I'd taken up a skill I'd been taught by my grandmother at the age of 5. I didn't realize that I could still do it. And when my granddaughter was born, she had a designer range of clothes that was crocheted, which looked like things that you wouldn't even find in books.
Wow.
And somebody said to me, but this does not reconcile with someone who is not creative. And then I sat back and realized I had taken in and believed a lie spoken over my life. And I lived and said and repeated it.
Unchallenged.
Unchallenged. So the one thing I would say to people out there, young people particularly, if somebody gives you or speaks into your life something which you know is fundamentally incorrect, understand that's their opinion. Do not concretize it in your life.
And I want to touch on that because this happens at parental level as well. Many times a parent will say, this is my kid, Johnny, and Johnny is shy. So Johnny grows up saying, I'm shy. Meantime, Johnny's probably a rock star. He's an extrovert of note. But Johnny grows up being shy because mom and dad said Johnny's shy because Johnny's not comfortable speaking to older people. He's cool with people of his age. So I love that lesson because it's not necessarily from a superior or your boss or your peer. It could be from a parent.
A parent, yes.
I love it.
Can I just add, I think it's probably the single biggest inhibitor to people getting to their summits in life. Because somebody told them something once that they believed, and it stopped them from where they could have gotten to in life.
Oh man, if you missed, so let me give you a great tip. Rewind 3 minutes of this conversation and watch it again, because I think this is not a golden nugget. It's probably a chunk of gold, a 2-kilogram gold bar that you just gave to everybody. Thank you very much.
Bobby.
We've got a mutual friend who I was so excited. I phoned him. I said, we've arranged the sit down, and it's about a week ago. He said, Bobby, let me tell you something. He says, you're a tough leader. I said, yeah, I'm pretty tough. We're very competitive company, and we go-getters. And he said, now, when I worked at Barclays, and Venete said something needed to be done, a project needed to be done, you would see these big grown men run and make sure that everything gets done. If it's due at 12 o'clock, it's done at 11. It's not done at 12. So, it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, it took our country, and you had influences throughout your journey, from the first black mayor of New York. If you were to say 3 most influential people in your life, I know there's probably 3,000, because you've had pivots in your career and you've done multiple things. But the 3 that come to mind first, who are they, and how did they influence your journey and course correct you to the incredible powerhouse of a woman that you are?
Wow. I normally get asked for one, and that's the easy one. But
Yes.
let me think as I go. The first one is definitely my mother.
Mom.
My mom was a blue-collar worker, a machinist in the factory. And because of the phenomenal woman that she was, she gave up her only career she ever had, which was a machinist, and reared us. But she made sure that we could be, or would be, the best versions of ourselves by being tough as nails. We understood there was no compromise. You understood from a very early age, you do this, the consequence is that.
Black and white. There's no gray area.
Black and white.
If this, then this.
Correct.
You want the reward, do the work.
Absolutely.
Love
And
it.
there was no compromise. There was no flip-flopping. And I must say, I became that parent as well, because I realized that's an investment into your lives of your
I
kids.
definitely feel that energy,
Yeah.
man.
That's the one thing. It's an investment into the lives of your kids. My mom was my absolute mentor. She was an absolute superstar. And I was blessed enough to have her come up and live with me in Pretoria for 25 years.
In the incredible life that you've made here.
Absolutely.
Well done, ma'am.
And share in that.
Well done.
Share in that, because I was never going to put my mom into an old age home. She was going to be with me till the end. My mom went on to be with the Lord last year, but we had the most incredible 25 years.
She's in a better place.
She's
than
in
me
a
and
better
you.
place. She was overseas. She was able to see a world that would never have been possible had she not allowed me to become everything that I was ordained to be, by being a parent that was going to hold me steady to a course.
Accountable.
Sometimes maybe to my own detriment, because I do believe that I have an overdeveloped sense of accountability, to a point where sometimes for people I love want to take on their accountability, but never with my kids, so that they don't learn the lesson. So that's number one.
Beautiful. Love it.
Number 2, I would say, would be my mom's oldest or elder sister. My mom came out of a family of three daughters, or three sisters. But she's always been the guiding light in our family. Even my mom used to go to her for counsel.
Wow.
She's still alive today. She's 98.
Wow.
And I do not make any big decision without consulting with Auntie Beatty first.
Wow.
So she's left an indelible imprint on my life. To this day, like I say, if I have a concern or I require wisdom that goes beyond books and experience, Auntie Beatty is the one to call.
She's the trifecta in your life, because
Absolutely.
theory can only teach you so much. 98 years walking this earth, there's no book that can teach you the life lessons that she's had an
Absolutely.
opportunity to experience. Wow. Until today, no big decision gets made. And
Without me consulting with her.
beautiful.
98, and I'm in there asking her, consulting with her.
I've got goosebumps, ma'am.
But I'm blessed. I'm blessed to still have her with me.
Absolutely.
So DBT, a big shout out to her. She's 98 years old, but razor sharp, and she's crystal clear when she speaks. And then, of course, the third one I want to give credit to, not credit, but my then boss, or the CEO of ABSA, when I was the CEO of the retail bank, he was the CEO of the group, was Steve Boyson. He was the youngest CEO of a bank way back when I was the CEO of the retail bank.
How old was he?
Steve was in his 40s when he became the CEO.
Very young.
He was,
Wow.
look, he's a CA, and he was in his 40s when he became the CEO of ABSA.
Wow.
ABSA Barclays. And I mean, that was a big thing because that's when Barclays re-entered South Africa, 2005. That's when Steve became the CEO. And I believe that from any of my previous superiors, he was the one, I believe, that gave me, number one, the biggest chance and saw the biggest, he saw what he called unmined potential in you. Those were his words. In fact, in my purse today, I still have the letter that he wrote the day that he left ABSA, because I was then running the retail bank. His words to me were to keep on going, and he said, you'll always remember me as someone who, if you want something done in ABSA, give it to Venete.
Consider it done.
Consider it done. I will move mountains, but get it done, I will. So I don't understand what the word no is in the business realm. If you can't help me with it, I'll get somebody else who does. But get it done. So to your friend, our mutual friend, I still don't know who it is, but things would get done. And the irony of it all is today Steve and I sit on the same board.
Beautiful. Which company?
Senvest in the
Senvest.
Northwest, yeah.
Wow.
The biggest agri company in the world, well, in the country at least.
Wow.
And expanding. We've just gone into Europe as well.
Beautiful
So Steve,
relationship.
Absolutely.
So our mutual friend is Fulu. He is current AVAF group head. Fulu Mangani.
Of course, yes. I'm trying to think where Fulu was when I was there. He was not at AVAF at the time, I don't believe.
Yes, he moved into AVAF
That's
a little
correct.
while after you moved
I
out of retail.
remember
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Please give Fulu my best.
I
I
will.
remember him so well.
He's a huge fan of our show, watches every episode. He can't wait to see us having a conversation. So shout out to him. I look
Fulu,
up to him
big
a
shout
lot.
out to you, and you owe me coffee.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Bobby.
so ma'am, you've had, this is not a question that you've prepared for. So I've got two. Love speaking to business people. You have worked with incredible leaders. You just mentioned one that saw the vast amount of untapped potential in you and gave you the opportunity, and he saw what your strengths are. You're an absolute practitioner. So you're not a delegator that, go run and do this project. You will grab the project, manage it, start to finish, and make sure it gets done, and then we'll grab the next project. You've worked with incredible leaders, both South African local leaders and overseas leaders. What are some of the qualities that you have seen in leaders that you admire, that you have adopted in your leadership style, that have served you?
There's obviously many, but I actually want to go a bit broader than the question. Please
Yes.
indulge me just for a minute,
Yes,
and you
ma'am.
could bring me right back to business leaders, if you will. The two people I believe that my leadership style probably best reflect is a combination of Margaret Thatcher
Okay, got
and
you.
Mother Teresa.
Okay,
Now, the reason I say that is because it's a very fine balance, being the Iron Lady and being the person that will look after the world and see to their needs before yourself. Those are the two people, two leaders that I have taken lessons from, and I've been told my leadership style best reflects or represents.
beautiful. Because both are tough.
Tough.
Both are very tough.
There's no margin for error.
Yes,
But through it all, you love people
yes,
enough to make the hard calls.
yes. And you have to make them.
You got to make them. In business, you do not have the luxury of flip-flopping. Your call is your call, and you stand by it.
Yes.
So before you make it and you affect people's lives, you better think long and hard. You cannot be a cowboy with people's lives. So when you lead teams, it's not so much about the number, it's about your impact, whether it's 1 or 25,000, which was the biggest team I've led.
Yes, ma'am.
You got to make sure that your message is consistent, your behavior is congruent with the role that you're in, and that you're touching lives as you go. And then there's one caveat. You do all of that whilst making money.
Love it. I think that's my favorite 4 minutes of the show I've ever had. Absolutely love it. As a leader, what are some of the qualities that you look for in a individual contributor at the level of a very novice person, somebody just came into the corporate world or into a team? What are some of the qualities that you're looking for there? Is it work ethic? Is it, wake up, dress up, show up? Some of the qualities there. And what are some of the qualities that you admire towards a more experienced and a senior type of a position? If you give me that answer, it gives insight to, I'll give you an example how our companies run. We have a cadetship program, so we take young kids, most of them are non-graduates. We put them through a study course, 3 months, 4 months, and then we deploy them into the dealership in different departments. They start off as a C player, and if they achieve certain markers, they become a B player. Obviously, income rises, and if they achieve certain markers, then they become an A player. Then income really rises, and they can change their lives and communities. But what do you look for in a C player, B player, and an A player? That this person is going somewhere. Perhaps that gives insight to the viewers to say, I need to adopt more of this because I'm a C player where I currently am. Or, I'm a B player. I've been a B player. I've been stuck here for the past 5 years. How do I become an A player?
Okay, you said I wasn't prepped for this. I wasn't prepped for any of it, as you all know. But let me put it to you this way. Can I challenge?
Yes, ma'am.
What you've just said?
Absolutely.
Challenge in a way that I don't believe there are any C players out there.
Me neither. There's no C players in my team. There are only B players in training, but they have to start as C players. So I love it. That's my mantra as well. We share the same feeling.
No C players.
100%. So that's a B player in training.
Absolutely.
But what is it that person needs? What's the magic sauce for them to move and, in a speedily fashion up the ladder?
All right. For me, it's all of what you said. Get up, dress up, show up.
Love it.
Okay. Then, you're a C player. Let's go with a model in training. You better, in your head, want to win. Because in your business, there's no margin or no space for anybody who's not here to win. Sales is a win-win game.
Yes.
You can't win-lose here.
Have to win. Customer
Win-win.
wins, customer wins, company wins, you win, your family wins, everybody wins.
Absolutely. So I look for a person who's confident, a person who believes in themselves, a person, it doesn't matter what their background is, walks in here and strive to be the best today. That's what I look for.
Beautiful.
The best today. And it doesn't mean that you didn't miss your taxi and the fact that you didn't have breakfast. All of those things happens to everyone sometime in life.
Yes.
But that is no reason to hold you down. The fact that you got your foot in the door and you're on that floor, I want you to act the part. I want you to be the part, and guess what? You're going to be the A player that you're supposed to be.
If you do these.
If you work according to the rules, the doctrines, the policies of the organization, but more specifically, understand your role. The first thing I would want to know as a salesperson is, so what is my target? And I would motivate myself to a point of, if I've got to sell, call it 10 cars a month, then you better know that I'm going to push for 10 in this week.
Beautiful. Urgency.
Urgency is everything.
Urgency, show up, and be the best today.
today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow,
Today.
you don't know. You may not even be here.
Yes.
This opportunity,
Tomorrow's not promised.
Not promised. The best version of you today. Meet those targets in a week, not a month. Then, to go to a leader. So what does a leader look like? Or what skill does a leader need to have with this group of let's say new entrants?
Yes.
All this group of salespeople. I need a leader who's attentive, who can see that Joseph is my top sales performer, but something's going down there. He's not himself, or she's not herself. To be tuned in enough to be able to call the person aside, assess what's wrong, do what needs to get done to get that person to carry on being the super A that that person is. Because if you cannot do that with the team that reports to you, you're not a leader.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking for a leader who's plugged into the people, who's attentive, and will make sure that your team is the best that they can be. But any leader who comes and stands in front of me, or I used to have sales teams work for me in the bank, would come and say to me, Johnny is no good, that was no good, that was no good. And I'm going to say, okay, 7 of the 10 is no good. Tell me about you. The problem is not them, the problem is you.
Absolutely.
So that's what I look for in a leader. A leader who is attentive, who understands that their success is his or her success.
Yes.
That's what I look for there. This is what I believe we look for here.
Yeah. As a salesperson, so I've had the opportunity to help grow phenomenal salespeople into incredible leaders. But that shift is so hard because a salesperson, somebody that actively serves customers, tends to be, I don't want to offend anybody, but I speak my heart, tends to be a little bit more selfish. It's me, then we. I need to be the best person. I loved your answer because it makes sense to me. I need to be the best salesperson that the company has today. Yes. That's a little bit of a more selfish stance where a leader needs to be we before me because our team needs to succeed, then I'm successful.
Yeah.
If 7 of the people are bad, it's a bad leader. If 1 or 2 are not gelling and there's conflict and you can't sort it out, then yes, exit them, make the hard decision because those people are uncomfortable in that situation anyway. They're not going to thrive there. Perhaps in a different team, yes, the dynamic is better. And also, a thing that I've learned over the years is, you're a very competitive person. Me and you speak the same language. So, dealer across the street is doing X, we're doing Y. These are the 5 things that we need to do to go and kill the competition. Let's go to war and we'll go and do it. But not all people are driven by that. Some people are driven by advancement and having that plugged in mentality. I know that Johnny wants to become a manager. I need to help him get there. I think that for me is also a great quality that you mentioned. Awesome.
Thank you.
Now, if I want to get into the landmines question. So if you were to say, as a career woman, perhaps 2 or 3 or 4 landmines that you've stepped in that, did some damage, but it wasn't fatal. So you've got an ANA, but it wasn't fatal. And if you could perhaps share with us the locations of those landmines so we don't need to step in them and perhaps get the lesson without having the pain.
I think the first one for me was, it's almost coming into a leadership role and becoming trigger happy.
Trigger happy.
Trigger happy.
Okay, I've stepped on that landmine before.
Trigger happy. So you walk in, the first thing you want to do is, look, you've now been placed in this position or you've earned it, and now you've got to make quick decisions, and your quick decisions
affect lives.
And you cut the wrong people. Ooh. That is fatal.
How do you later on in life, what's the lesson that you've taken from that landmine? How do you prevent yourself as a leader from doing that? Give me your thought process. This is step 1, step 2. You're a very systematic person. I picked that up. How do you, towards your later stage of the career not make that same mistake?
I, very early on in my career, actually made that particular mistake, and I then decided never to walk into any role and make people decisions for at least the first 4 to 6 months.
No people. Process, procedures, yes, not
Process,
people.
change the environment,
That's
change
great
the
advice.
drapes and change the carpets, but you do not touch the people.
4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Love it.
4 to 6 months, I think, was sufficient time for me to take whatever handover pack I'd been given by the previous incumbent in that role. To say, you've given me a whole write-up on Johnny and on Sandy and Sam, but your assessment was wrong. Because what you said and what I've experienced are two different things.
Awesome.
So I very often have found that people would leave in leadership roles a deck for you based on what they wanted you to do next.
And
Rather than, and I made the mistake initially by going in and taking that as gospel and making the shifts proposed by my predecessor.
it sort of touches on the previous statement that you made, that you don't have a creative bone in your body. Take that as true and correct until
Exactly.
20 years later, I'm the most creative person that you've ever met, sir or ma'am. And it's exactly the same. It sings to that song.
Exactly. It's test, assess, and then decide. And
Test, assess,
and then decide. Particularly when it comes to touching lives. You find some leaders coming in and they do a clean sweep, change the deck chairs, change everybody, move people into the, cable area, move people into social media. They in fact create departments for people. It costs the business money. They lose the skill. They are new. And guess what? They're on shaky grounds.
Yes.
Because most of the executive roles out there, you do not have time to go and retrain. So it's best you learn that you go in, trust who you get, and assess as you go, and then decide and do the job that you're paid to do.
Beautiful. Ma'am, that is probably the most valuable information a leader can, especially stepping into a new position, leading 2 people or 25,000 people.
Correct.
4 to 6 months. Test, assess, decide.
Correct.
What's the second landmine?
I think in 1994, with our democracy, we used to find, that you got pulled into things because of your skin color
Yes.
and because you're a woman in business.
Yes.
And I think for about 2 or 3 years, I rode the crest of the wave and kind of bought into that this is great. Until I realized that only goes so far. If you've been appointed as a token man, you've not really proven anything. It's when I was appointed to sit shoulder to shoulder with the executive of ABSA Barclays, as at that stage agreed with the Minister of Finance, who was Trevor Manuel,
Yes.
that I realized my full worth. And I wasn't seen as a token appointment.
Beautiful.
But I stepped into it as well. And I think if some people are really honest, they'll say, we rode the crest of the wave, maybe unfairly so, but what did you do with that opportunity? Did it make you better or did it make you arrogant? And you were then not the best version of you that you could become.
Huge difference.
Huge difference.
Huge
So
difference.
that was landmine number 2.
Stay humble. Did I earn this? And if I got lucky, or if I got a position, unexpectedly, make sure that you produce your worth.
Absolutely.
You produce your worth within that position. Because sometimes leaders, the capacity of a leader exceeds their income sometimes, to the point where the capacity keeps on pulling the income. But sometimes the income exceeds the capacity. And one way or another, you'll find a way to pull that income right down because you're not worth your
Exactly.
your
It's not
waiting
sustainable.
in that position.
Yeah, not sustainable at all.
Love your answer.
So that was landmine number 2. And I must say, I'm going to struggle with landmine number 3. So don't force me. I just can't think of another one right now. Those were my 2 key landmines I could think about.
No problem. If you don't have a board pack to prepare, if you don't have a board meeting to go to, if you don't have, there are a million other things that you're involved in, who are you on a Sunday morning, not having the weight of 25,000 people that rely on every single decision that you make. Are you watching Netflix? Are you listening to music? Are you doing gardening? What are you doing on a Sunday when the kids are not around?
Now we've agreed that I'm unconventional, right? So I can push
Absolutely.
your question out to the way I want to answer this, right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with, I'm still this executive,
Okay.
but on a Saturday, it's me time.
Me time. What does that mean?
Titivating, doing my nails,
Okay.
doing my hair, because the girl's got to be stage ready wherever you go.
Absolutely.
Because remember, when you've got a role, or when when you are in a position that you've now earned, there are many eyes on you. So if you are going to walk around with your hair unkept and your nails are unkept, and
Especially today.
especially
because
today,
you've been an executive, earned executive before social media,
Absolutely.
during and now. I
Yes.
mean, it's you can do nothing where it's not filmed.
absolutely. And you must always know there's eyes on you.
Yes.
I mean, even when I was getting ready for this interview, I struggled. I mean, I think the first thing I said was, what is the dress code? Because for me, that's important.
Yes.
You can't just walk around in sloffies and with your hair unkept into a mall and you're running a bank. Unfortunately, people judge you for what they see. So you've got to be ready.
I want to say, and fairly so, because 25,000 people are not looking up to someone with flip-flops in a mall wearing, inappropriate attire and looking scruffy. You
Yeah.
need to you need to step into that part. You need to be that part. I will follow you because you look the part, you speak the part, you are concrete in your decision-making process. So that's on a Saturday morning when it's me time, it's still game on.
Game
you
on.
wake up, you dress up, and you show up. No
And
matter
I show up.
Beautiful.
At my salon for my nails, at my salon for my hair, at my salon for a massage because it's been a tough week. But Saturdays, me time. So it doesn't matter how many children you may have. It doesn't matter how big your family may be. And it doesn't matter how big the executive role is that you hold. If you do not take time out, you will burn out.
Yes, agree.
So Saturdays, me time. Okay? Sundays, off to church as this God-fearing woman that I am. Sunday lunch, always with the family.
Always with the family.
Always with the family.
Beautiful.
I cook for them. I'm not going to say I go as far as cleaning. I've got helpers. I even have helpers with the cooking. But there are days where I feel like cooking myself. But Sundays is about connecting with your family. Because family, for me, is the foundation of your life.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
All the other stuff is a
Absolutely.
game that you play.
Absolutely.
And some players are just exceptionally good at the game. And, some of us are still training to be great at the game. But family is real. That's what it's about.
But I just want to add by saying success is a team sport.
Yeah.
You cannot
Family
be
is part of the team.
That's correct. Your team sport is your family.
Yeah.
You cannot be the super successful. I've seen many people being public successes and private failures.
Yep.
Now, if you'll indulge me, I speak openly. This is Women's Month, so I suppose I can have my 1 minute's
Yes,
worth
please.
to say this. I used to live my life by you cannot be a public success and a private failure. And then after 41 years of marriage, guess what? I failed at my marriage. Or, shall I rather put it this way, my marriage failed.
Failed.
It was
After
tough.
41 years.
41 years of doing or giving it my best shot. Rising to the highest that I could in my career. I've got 3 beautiful grandkids, 2 sons. I've got a beautiful family, but my marriage failed. It was tough, but you know what? Even there, I go back to being that 17, 18-year-old person who got kicked to the curb by life. I had to get up, dust myself off, and keep going. And I sit here today and I thank God that He's opened other opportunities for me. And I can say that I'm in a relationship right now.
We met him off camera and, ma'am, we are both in love with him. He is absolutely incredible.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time, God
All
is
the
good.
time. Yes, ma'am. Wow. So, just the get up, dress up, and show up through being whipped black, having your dad say to you, you may not finish matric because I'm not sending you to school to get killed, which as a parent, I'm fully supportive of that statement. You know, I'm lucky today. My precious little girl is coming home and she's hurt, but she's alive. I might not be as lucky tomorrow. You know, this brings tears to my eyes. And for him to know the pain and the struggle that you've gone through, to be able to write your matric exams, you being a prefect, to say that wasn't easy for him to say, but I'll rather see you fail at something that you love than see you die. Get up, dress up, show up and move forward. Don't lose
Absolutely.
the lesson and make the best of it. Wow, ma'am, you have served on multiple boards as an executive and as a non-executive. You serve on a couple now. Do you want to chat about it? Like what's some of the exciting stuff that you people think like you hanging out now and you know the rat race is over and you sort of chill. I think you're very busy. You're probably busier now than most top level executives in their you know in their prime. So what are some of the stuff that you're involved with?
Well, right now I serve on the board of Senves, which is the biggest agri company in South Africa.
You mentioned, and it's about to go over.
No, we already have gone offshore into Europe. It's all about food supply in this country and food security. So, you know, very involved there. I also sit on the board of PG Glass.
Wow.
The glass people. I mean, PG has been around for more than 100 years, started by the Lubners, Gary Lubners, the current chairman of the board. And yeah, so I sit on the PG board as well. I sit on the board of Accenture Foundation, which is actually, you know, the consulting firm.
Yes.
And we do a lot of exciting work there. And then I consult to a lot of big companies as well. So
beautiful.
I've run my own management consulting firm called Klein Inc. Management Consulting. And I also do various mentorship and coaching programs for executives.
Unbelievable. And you still have time to do your nails and hair on a Saturday and
Absolutely.
have supper with the family on a Sunday.
Absolutely.
If you could spend a day with someone, dead or alive, who would that person be? And what are some of the questions that you'd ask him or her?
Wow, that's a big one. Right now, and it's probably because it's still so raw, it would probably be my mom. Because after 25 years of being with me, there's just certain things that I feel like I didn't get the answer for, you know, particularly in this journey of my life, starting with a new relationship. You know, what do I look out for, Mom, and how do I handle this? You know, I would have probably have wanted to do more of that. Look, my life has been very focused on my career. So I've got many career icons that I've met, like, for example, the top lecturer at INSEAD, which is the equivalent of Harvard in Europe.
Okay.
INSEAD, you know, the Europeans,
yes.
They've got to have their own everything. So America
Absolutely.
has got Harvard, the French, particularly the French, and Europe has got INSEAD, is Manfred Ketz-de-Vries. He's an absolute icon on leadership and psychology. Manfred was my personal coach for something like 8 years.
Wow. What a privilege.
What a privilege. I've seen some of the best, I've been in the presence of some of the sharpest business brains. Brand Pretorius.
I met him about a month ago.
You must know Brand Pretorius. He's probably the sharpest business brain.
So I'm getting goosebumps.
Toyota?
Yes, as well as McCarthy.
Brand Pretorius. I mean,
Uncle Brand is incredible.
I can rattle those names off, and I don't want to do any more of that. Nali Bosman. Don't know if you know Nali Bosman.
No.
He was the CEO of ABSA, the first ABSA when they became the Amalgamated Banks of South Africa.
Yes.
Remember, it was Allied, it was Allied,
Volkskas. At the stage, yes.
United,
yes.
and
then it became ABSA.
It became ABSA. Dr. Dani. I mean, Dani was the first chairman of that board. I mean, Dr. Dani was the one with Steve who gave me the first break. When I went on to the board of ABSA, Dani called me in and said to me, the reason I choose you is because you're different. I said, yes. He said, I don't want you to be the same. I want the difference.
Opposing opinion is so
on
important.
Everything. And that gave me the confidence and the courage to speak my mind, even with my Barclays colleagues. which is why I won the very first Barclays Leadership Award that very year that we became partners
Beautiful.
in South Africa. So yeah, I've had so many phenomenal leaders, but if it's very hard to choose just one. But if there's one that I'd want to tap into right now, if I could, it would be my mom, particularly with this phase of my life. Mom, am I doing this right? Well, how else would I do this? You know, so it would be my mom.
Beautiful. Love the answer. Love the answer. I wanna go into a part of your brain and pick your brain a little bit just to see, you know, I speak to guests sometimes and you know, is there something that we don't know, like a little bit of a dark side maybe? But if you could be a fly on the wall and be in a room and overhear a conversation, who's in the room and what are they talking about?
In the room would be the Minister of Finance,
Okay, current. Okay.
Enoch Godongwana, who's a
Yeah.
good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Enoch would be leading the charge. You'd have Lesetja
Okay.
Kanyago, who's the current Reserve Bank governor. You'd have the head of Treasury there.
Okay. Wow,
And
that's
we
a pretty awesome room.
Absolutely. And we would have the discussion of the financial situation in South Africa today.
Current?
The current financial situation regarding how do you regularize the current constraints where household debt to income is probably over 100%.
Yeah.
How do we as a government help to lift the pressure? Because I'm firmly of the view this is like that pressure valve is about ready to give.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because South Africa just cannot take, people on the ground cannot take any more credit. And you still have quite a few sharks out there who's pushing where people cannot afford to borrow. And it's the difference between where the kids eat and don't eat.
Yes.
So as the finance minister, the governor of the Reserve Bank, and head of Treasury, I'd be interested to hear what their plans may be.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with you, man, because that's a leadership position that affects, how many are we? 50 million lives.
Absolutely.
Because every action will have a reaction, and you can't just, you know, drop rates, because we all know what happens when you do that. You can't print more money. Like, have we mined more gold to be able to support? You can't just, people think it's very easy and they say, you know, a government or a department's failing because of, but they don't understand the extra pressure. You do, because you've led these teams, the extra pressures of just making a small move, how big the move actually is down the road. And like you said, you know, it's the difference between children eating and not eating, and that's where we've gotten to. So yeah, incredible amount of responsibility on the gentleman that you've
Actually, I want to add one name to that. Sorry to cut in, Bobby. I would like to add Edward Kieswetter, who's current head of SARS.
Yes.
Because currently we are under collecting to the tune of about 2 billion per day between what government is spending and what government's collecting.
Wow.
So that is one hell of a conundrum.
Yeah.
And that release valve is just about ready to give.
Yeah.
So Edward must be in there, and they've got to talk about South Africa tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we
South
are
Africa
needing
tomorrow.
South Africa tomorrow. We are needing some serious engagements and some strategies and plans that's going to self-correct this country, because we need it right now.
And I hope that meeting takes place very soon, and I hope that the right decisions get made and the right motions get set. You are obviously a massive reader, big reader. You love books. You've probably read so many, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. We've got a reading program within our company, so I'll tell you about it. It started off as a forced event, forced by myself, that from this month we've got a book of the month. You all will read the book and write the book report. So the company is very small. We didn't have a lot of people, and it was lots of pushback. But once the first, second, third book was behind us, you know, people fell in love with the process. Now we write a book report 3 key takeaways, and we move forward. It's probably been one of the 2 or 3 things that has changed our company and has kept us ahead of our competitors in our industry. If you could share a couple of books that have made an impact in your life, in your personal career, professional life, so that we can perhaps go and tap into that knowledge, what would those books be?
Probably too many to mention. Good to Great was certainly one that I know that, really taught me many lessons. Moving from Success to Significance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because Bob Buford. Because for me, it's, success is one thing. And I always say, any fool can lead, but not any fool can love whilst leading.
Okay.
And that's for leaders out there. Those guys who are leading and are jerks, please hear me. Any fool can be a leader, but not any fool can love people while they're leading. That gives you a bit of an edge. So Bob Buford and Moving from Success to Significance. But the one book that I've got my best leadership lessons from is the Bible.
The Bible.
But not just any Bible. It is the John Maxwell Leadership Bible.
He's the expert in the field.
The absolute expert.
Yeah, John C. Maxwell is the go-to on leadership, especially.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've ever met John.
Never met John. Have you met John?
I've got photos to prove it.
Wow.
But I brought John to South Africa about 3 times for big audiences when I was at ABSA as part of my leadership development programs. But the one thing John taught me when it comes to reading books, it doesn't start when we're obviously my age. John tells the story that his father was a university professor.
Yes.
And they were living on a campus where there were, all of the professors. I'm not sure if it was Harvard or which university it was. And then John got to go and play with one of his friends and slept over. And what happened was the friend's dad would pay them for washing the dishes, washing the car, and doing whatever else. And then John came back to his dad and said, Dad, look, but I do these things. Why are you not paying me? And his dad said, I'll do better. I'm going to pay you, but not for the chores that you do because you eat and live here. I'm going to pay you for every book that you read.
Beautiful.
And that's how he got to become this ardent reader. He said he went through reading books, hundreds at a time. And he's an absolute brilliant leadership guru.
He is the go-to person.
He is the go-to. But just to conclude, if I can say this to you. So Fulu will tell you, anybody who used to come into my office at ABSA will tell you, every morning there would be the John Maxwell Leadership Bible with a particular, not a verse of scripture, but John has got a way of taking a chapter or taking a part of or telling you what a particular book of the Bible is about and pulling out the key leadership nuggets. That's what you'll find in that leadership Bible, as you know. And that's what I used to use often.
Beautiful. Love him. My favorite author.
Yeah.
Everything good is uphill.
Absolutely.
Everything good is up. Love
Absolutely.
it. Love it. Love it. Off camera, I'm going to show you. There's, there's one thing that I'm particularly proud of, and that's the library in my office. And I've got probably about 35 of his books. My
Wonderful.
favorite author. Ma'am?
So we share that too, don't we,
Yes,
Robert?
yes, ma'am. Now, are you a car girl?
I am.
I saw what you pulled up in. I think
I
you are.
am.
I love the car that you pulled in. But your first car, let's go back to the first car.
It was a Dodge Colt.
A Dodge
Colt. It was a little one, but it was a Colt. It was a Colt, a
What
Dodge
color?
Colt. Royal blue.
Royal blue. Many nice memories in it?
Yeah, the best of which is my brother wrote it off.
Oh,
that
no.
wasn't so nice.
I
but
hope
yeah.
he's okay.
Look, at that stage, I wasn't too worried about him. I was more worried about my car. But God was good. The car was a write-off. My brother's good.
Good.
Was good.
And you're driving a very nice car at the moment. Is it your dream car, or is there something else that you've got your eyes set on?
No, look, I've been driving Mercs for the last 25 years.
Okay.
And that's because as a little girl, we had a neighbor who had one of these old Mercedeses, and he used to ride. And I said to myself, one day I'll
I'm going
own
to buy
one.
myself a Merc.
And I got my first one, which was probably like 20 years old, but I got it. And from there, I migrated. I've never driven a second-hand Merc again.
Okay.
But Yeah, so I've got 2 in the garage.
Okay, beautiful, ma'am.
That's one of it.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Ma'am, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to? Like, what's something that excites you? What is, what is the best way that people can reach out and just either send an appreciation letter or maybe perhaps ask a question and say, Venete, I'm struggling with this. If you're comfortable,
Absolutely.
putting out an email address or something for us mere humans to have contact with you, because the best way to find a mentor is just to ask, raise your hand, I'm struggling with the issue. How would you process this if you're comfortable?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm open to that. I want to answer your question in 2 parts.
Yeah.
What's next for me first?
Yes.
I've spent many years investing in many lives. I want to spend this last rodeo focusing on myself and the people I love. And it's to get to that happy space of not all the uphill drama that comes with, because be clear, being in corporate is not without its challenges.
Capitalism is hard.
Absolutely.
It's hard. It's
Absolutely.
competitive.
It's so competitive. And I don't want to, I've lived that life, and I help many people who still are living it to be the best they can for where they're at. But that's no longer my life. I now am where I've enjoyed the top jobs. I still enjoy sitting on boards and making hard calls on businesses in South Africa today. Still engage with many ministers around South Africa particularly. But what's next for me is living the last season of my life, which, if my family is anything to go by, is a good 30 years to go still.
Beautiful.
Happy, content, Vadisia, and on cruises.
Oh, wow.
I love boat cruises. I've done many. I want to do a few more. That's what's next, while enjoying my family.
Beautiful.
That's what's next for me. And in all that time, it's about refiring. I'm retired from formal business. I sit on boards, but it's about refiring my life and become as effective. Remember, I'm a lifetime learner like Umsaki.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's about refiring, remaining relevant. So when my grandkids comes and ask me things, I mean, there's many things they teach me, by the way. Social media, they'll teach me things. But when they ask me questions about love and life, I'd be able to input in a constructive way, not to have been left behind by a system that is changing so rapidly. So that's the next phase of my life.
And you are the trifecta for the next generation, as is your aunt.
Thank you.
For you. Ma'am, I am absolutely...
The email address, you asked me about that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We certainly can share that.
Okay.
My name is spelled Venete, Venete.
Okay.
My surname is Klein, Klein, Inc. So Klein Inc. altogether. Okay. Venete at klaininc.co.za.
We're going to put the link up below the video.
Do that with pleasure. With pleasure.
And
I look forward to the comments.
Absolutely. Me too. Ma'am, it has been this last, I don't know if it's been 60, 90 minutes, has been probably one of the best of my life. I've really learned a lot from you. I'm honored that you agreed to spend the time with us. I think our guests are also going to absolutely love the life, love, leadership lessons that you've shared with us. And I'm a better person now that I've met you. So you made me better after you found me. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you add so much incredible value to all our viewers.
Thank you, Bobby. Can I just add one more thing?
Yes, please.
I mean, this is Women's Month, so please indulge me.
Yes, ma'am.
We have got to applaud the giants on whose shoulders we stand. There have been many in my life, and I want to applaud you today for this platform. Without this platform, you would not be reaching so many people out there with pearls of wisdom and investing in their lives, all at the click of a button. So, Bobby, thank you for being one of the giants on whose shoulders so many of us are standing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's such a compliment. Thank you, ma'am.